The costs of poor strategy execution are staggering, and yet they often go unnoticed until it's too late. It's a topic that seems to float in the background, simmering quietly while businesses chase after shiny new initiatives, convinced that the next big idea will be the one to propel them forward. But look at the statistics. Only 56% of strategic initiatives succeed, according to a study by the Project Management Institute and the Economist Intelligence Unit. That's a disheartening figure, isn't it? It's like flipping a coin and hoping for heads, only to find that tails is the outcome more often than not. Now, let's break that down. When we talk about strategy execution, we're really discussing the process of turning plans into action. It's about translating high-level goals into specific, actionable tasks and ensuring that every department is aligned and coordinated. Sounds simple, right? Yet, in practice, it's anything but. A good strategy execution plan is coherent, easy to understand, and straightforward. It should trace a clear line from the company's vision to the actual activities that employees undertake. But when that coherence is absent, when communication breaks down, or when resources are lacking, the results can be catastrophic. Imagine pouring resource into a strategy that doesn't align with your organization's vision or capabilities. You're essentially throwing money down the drain. Conservatively speaking, at least half of the investment in unaligned strategies is unrecoverable. That's a staggering loss, and it can derail even the most promising plans for growth. The reality is that poor strategy execution can lead to missed opportunities, lost profits, and in the worst-case scenario, bankruptcy. So, let's talk about what contributes to this poor execution. One of the most common culprits is a lack of clarity around the strategy itself. If the strategy is poorly defined or open to multiple interpretations, how can anyone be expected to carry it out effectively? Communication is key. When different parts of the organization aren't on the same page, it creates a recipe for disaster. Add to that a lack of resources, and you have a perfect storm brewing. In fact, Mankins and Steele, in their 2005 article, Turning Great Strategy into Great Performance, identified 11 key reasons organizations fail to implement their strategy successfully. Among these are inadequate resources, poorly communicated strategies, unclear accountabilities, and execution blocked by organizational silos and culture. It's like a domino effect. One weak link in the chain can cause the whole thing to collapse. The average performance loss between planned and actual results is a staggering 37%. That's what we call the strategy execution gap. And it's a gap that can cost organizations dearly. The commercial implications of this gap can lead to one of two outcomes: either a failure to achieve expected revenue or increased execution costs due to poor planning. Both scenarios are detrimental, but the latter can be particularly insidious. When a strategy stalls, businesses often throw more resources at the problem, hoping to turn things around. But in reality, it's the ill-conceived plans that are at the root of the issue, not the lack of resources. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. What are the actual costs of poor strategy execution? First and foremost, there are missed opportunities. When a company fails to execute its strategy, it often overlooks chances for growth that could have led to greater profits. Maybe there's a new market trend that goes unaddressed, or perhaps a lucrative contract slips through the cracks. Then there's the matter of increased execution costs. When plans stall, the inefficiencies pile up. Trying to realign a strategy that isn't being executed correctly can lead to wasted time and resources. And let's not forget about lower profits. When a strategy fails, it can create a ripple effect that impacts the entire organization. A shortfall in revenue can lead to cash flow issues, diminished growth, and a loss of confidence among shareholders and employees alike. In the most severe cases, poor strategy execution can lead to bankruptcy. Companies that can't execute their strategies often find themselves in dire straits, forced to make drastic changes to stay afloat. This can mean shutting down operations, resulting in job losses and a significant decline in revenue. But it's not just financial implications we're talking about here. Poor strategy execution can lead to low employee engagement. When employees are unclear about the strategy or feel disconnected from it, their motivation plummets. A study by Towers Watson found that nearly 60% of employees cited a lack of clarity around strategy as the primary reason for their disengagement. And when engagement drops, productivity suffers, leading to a cycle of underperformance. So, how can organizations improve their strategy execution? It starts with creating a culture of accountability. Everyone in the organization must understand their role in executing the strategy. Clear goals and measurements are essential. They provide a roadmap for success. Education and training also play a critical role. Employees need to be equipped with the skills and knowledge necessary to carry out their responsibilities effectively. And let's not forget about communication. Frequent check-ins, candid feedback, and alignment across departments can help ensure that everyone is working toward the same goals. It's about fostering a culture where accountability, professionalism, and continuous improvement are the norms. Organizations must also be willing to acknowledge that trade-offs are necessary. It's crucial to prioritize initiatives and avoid unrealistic expectations. Strategy execution can be divided into two categories, the big what and the little whats. By empowering individuals and teams to take ownership of their projects, organizations can build experience and confidence in executing larger, more complex goals. But what happens when things go wrong? Who can we blame for the failure to execute? It's a question that often leads to finger-pointing, excuses, and a culture of blame. The truth is that the responsibility lies with everyone involved. From leadership to individual contributors, we all play a role in the success or failure of strategy execution. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the organization is unique, that it's somehow immune to the common pitfalls of poor strategy execution. But the reality is that many organizations struggle with the same issues. Culture, leadership, and individual accountability all play a part in whether a strategy succeeds or fails. Let's face it, if your organization is riddled with ego-driven managers who prioritize their own interests over the collective good, you're going to have a tough time executing any strategy effectively. If the culture is one of resistance to change, where the status quo is revered, you can bet that innovation and progress will be stifled. And what about leadership? If leaders are confused, inconsistent, or disengaged, how can they expect their teams to perform? A lack of clear direction from leadership can leave employees feeling lost and demotivated. Ultimately, the responsibility for strategy execution lies with all of us. It's not just about having a great strategy on paper. It's about translating that strategy into action and ensuring that everyone is aligned and accountable. When organizations can bridge the execution gap, they position themselves for success in an ever-changing business landscape. So, as we reflect on the costs of poor strategy execution, let's remember that it's not just about the numbers. It's about the people behind those numbers, the employees, the leaders, the teams who are all striving to make a difference. By fostering a culture of accountability, improving communication, and providing the necessary resources, organizations can not only avoid the pitfalls of poor execution, but also unlock their full potential. The road ahead may be challenging, but with the right approach, success is within reach.